r/ask Reddit. What's an American problem you're too European to understand? Australian here. Don't understand why tax isn't automatically added to price tags. That got me so irritated in the US. Montana noises. Why people censor swears that are totally obvious. Also how many shows don't bleep out the full word. Like a lot of time you'll hear FK or SHT and it's not hard to figure out what they're actually saying. Either censor the whole thing or don't censor at all. I would guess the point of that is so that any adults would still know what was being said but children supposedly wouldn't figure it out. IDK shot in the dark there. The real reason is to keep the advertisers for the network happy. Ask your doctor about this drug ads. Honestly, that one is batshit crazy for us Americans too. Especially when they get to the side effects and it's basically summarized as LOL you might die. Or that there are so many side effects you might as well not bother or you need other drugs for those side effects. Limited sick days. I truly do not understand those. I mean, if you're sick you're, sick. I have tried, but I cannot limit the time I'm sick. I don't think a lot of people can. So why TF limit sick days? Here in the Netherlands we went, in my opinion, a bit overboard. You can be sick for 1 year, then your employer has to pay only 70% of your salary. After 2 years they can fire you. That's a bit long. But I read somewhere about people who have 2 sick days a year, which is the other end of ridiculous. Because no one ever believes that you're actually sick here. The default mentality is that employees would call out sick all the time and never work if there was no limit. Paying for an ambulance. Seriously, like WTF. When my friend living in the USA got sick I told her that it would be cheaper just to take a limo to the hospital. I think from memory she had to pay about $5,000 US. Just take the limo. At least you can ride up in style. Popping in to say people don't always have a choice, which is insane. I have a relative who went to the ER for a major depressive episode and needed to be transferred to a nearby psych program. Her parents were there and wanted to drive. It was 5 minutes away. Legally, they could not release her to her parents and had to take her in an ambulance. 5-minute ambulance ride equals $2,000. Luckily she was under 26 and her parents had good insurance so most of it was covered. But imagine already wanting to kill yourself and then getting strapped with thousands in bills for trying to get help. God bless the USA. In rural PA with a voluntary ambulance and fire department they have subscriptions. Essentially donate $50 a year and they accept what your insurance pays. You don't have to pay the difference if there is any. Sounds like insurance. So you have to buy another insurance because the first one is shit. Their toilet stalls are so ducked up it's unbelievable. Huge gaps in the side you can see people through. Huge gaps at the top and bottom. And they don't have occupied signs that show when the door is locked. I was listening to an American podcast recently where they suggested having a light above the stall to show when it's in use. They don't have a clue LOL. Can confirm every public restroom is like this, we just figure it out by seeing feet. Some barbarians figure it out by jerking the handle several times. The idolization of politicians. They are public servants. Similar to a courthouse clerk or a city hall coordinator. They are not rock stars. You don't need to scream their name. Buy their merch. Fully commit your life to them and believe everything they say. Just treat them like public servants. Sure, they get power and position, but hold them accountable when they abuse it. Don't let corporations and politicians take over. The political system is created by the people. For the people. It just boggles the mind. I'm American and I'm also baffled and appalled by this LOL. American here. When I was studying in the UK I had to send some financial documents back to the US. The only way these documents were considered valid was if the original was mailed in. Or if I faxed a copy. When I asked the printing office if they could fax it for me they looked at me like I was an alien and said the school hadn't owned a fax machine for like a decade. Then they asked me if I still use a VCR. Americans still use fax machines? Especially for health stuff. Just had to fax a claim this morning. Probably not really European but Finnish. Memes about forgetting to connect your phone to Wi-Fi. Here we have unlimited internet and it's working almost everywhere. Edit. Also the unlimited mobile data costs here like €30 in month. Having to do your tax return, I mean, the IRS know how much you earn. So why can't they just take it out? Damn. I swear they want you to duck up so they can put you in jail, fine you. We do it in Europe too, at least in Germany and Croatia. That is if by tax bill you mean tax return. In the UK, you also do it, but only if you are self-employed. Yes, tax return. If you work for an employer, the tax gets taken out of your monthly weekly wage. But self-employed, you must do it yourself. Living paycheck to paycheck despite making like $4 a month. When I lived in Seattle, I had a $2,300 mortgage, but daycare for 2 kids, just to take care of them while we were at work, ran $4,400 a month. We didn't live paycheck to paycheck, but I guess I can see how it's possible. 4K a month for 2 kids daycare? How is that? I can't even. Bro, I so get why Americans are going child free now. It's simply unaffordable. Australian here. The TV ads for prescription medication always gets me. Like really specific medication too. Not just a new over-the-counter painkiller. I think it's good to research medication if you have a condition, to be informed about your options. But it's so bizarre to see ads for it in between Property Brothers episodes and ads for Taco Bell. And every one of these ads has another ad like a year later for a class action lawsuit for anyone said medication now dealing with some horrible syndrome it causes. Nipples, or in general the hypersexualization of nudity. American here. My girlfriend and I were just talking about this. Someone posted an innocent baby photo on Facebook and they censored out the nipples. We were like, it wasn't weird or sexual, but now you've gone and made it weird. There was a controversial issue in a TV show, Manhunter, that the naked, bloody corpse of a guy was showing his butt crack, and that warranted a higher PG rating. The solution was more blood to cover the crack, and then it's all good. Student debt. I pay €20 semester tuition in Austria. Bro, I'm in a community college, the cheap option, and I pay almost $2,000 a semester, plus a couple hundred in mandatory books and supplies. Damn nice. I'm from Germany and ours goes from 50 to 400 euros per semester. Do you get stuff like public transportation as well for that price? The confusing imperial measurement system and US customary units. They say inches and feet are easier to imagine. Fair enough. But what about miles? Why are they the specific number of feet instead of 1,000? The mile was invented by the Romans. It was originally defined as 5,000 feet. This was based on 1,000 times the average distance a soldier made between 2 footsteps by the same foot. The mile was used throughout Europe after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Later, in medieval England, they were using a unit called the furlong to measure land, which was born out of the confusing mix of Roman, Norman, Germanic, and Celtic influence on the island. A furlong was roughly the length of land an ox could plow without resting, though it was more strictly legally defined when it actually came to writing deeds and such. It came out to 660 featuring, as it so happened, 8 furlongs was about 6% more length than a Roman mile. Eventually, a massive caseload of property deeds were defined in furlongs. In 1593, Queen Elizabeth I and her parliament decided to standardize units, and during that process they decided to redefine the mile to line it up with furlongs so the old deeds would still be valid. Thus, a mile was set as 8 furlongs, or 5,280 feet. The other European countries eventually discarded the Roman units in favor of the metric system. So now England and its former possessions are the only ones left using miles. That's why we only have the weird 5,280 feet version instead of the clean 5,000 feet version. I've never understood the tipping culture in the US. As an Aussie, tipping just isn't really a thing. Except like paying $10 for a drink that costs $9.20 and telling the bartender to keep the change. And that's basically it. You have $4.50 in your pocket. The fancy drink is advertised at $3.99. Do you have enough money to buy it? Dunno. I live in the USA and this is the worst. Lobbying. I never understand how every politician on both sides gets away with legalized bribery and everyone just accepts it. I understand the need for specialist interest groups to promote their ideas, but to be allowed to visibly finance a politician and rate their friendliness to your cause with no repercussions is insane to me. It's bribery no matter how you dress it up. Joining the army for college money and free healthcare. Also how religious they are. I'm not religious. Tipping. Paying for healthcare. Thank God for the NHS. Ridiculous living costs. Not having holiday time. Not using the metric system. Counting in football fields moon landings instead. I don't get it. My car gets up to 14,000 cheeseburgers per school shooting on the highway. Since my only contact with American culture is through the internet, I don't know which of the American problems are actual problems and which are just whining and overblown bullshit. Here is one I can't understand. Strong violence on TV. No one bats an eye. Nipple slip. Everybody loses their minds. Why don't you all have bidets? With no intent to be rude, but I can't understand how so many people eat themselves to the point of needing a mobility scooter or the point of being bedbound. I live in Sweden and I believe that the absolutely heaviest person I've ever seen in 30 years was about 400 pounds. A dozen inches is a foot. 5,280 feet are a mile or 1,760 yards. 231 cubic inches are a gallon or 256 American tablespoons. Not to be confused with British tablespoons, which would only take about 213.165 to fill an US gallon. But not exactly. When I was little I asked myself, how the duck did you come up with landing people on the moon? Then I dug deeper into that and found out about Wernher von Braun, who was the leading engineer and rocket scientist behind the Saturn V rocket that launched Apollo 11 to the moon and back to Earth. Braun was German, and I'm almost certain that if he had to deal with a duckton of imperial units, America would have missed the moon by about 10 billion furlongs, which is another bullshit unit. American scientists use the metric system. Time to sort by controversial and eat some popcorn. Registering to vote. As a Canadian, you're automatically enrolled when you turn 18 and get a notice where your polling station will be for every election. I never understood four things in us. Healthcare, or mostly health don't care. Prices are written on goods without taxes. Toilets that looks like small lake. Shower that have only one knob to set intensity and temperature of water. Caring about other people's food. As a Pole, I don't care how do you like your pierogi, pizzy, kotags, bigos, etc. But damn me if I ask in the US for a well done steak, or if I order a Hawaiian pizza. Why the hell does anyone still use checks? Like actual paper checkbooks that you write on and then deposit to the bank? How is that still a thing? I know a lot of phrases like write a check or the check had bounced, but I assume they were leftovers in the language from the pre-internet era. I'm going to save everyone a lot of time here. The answer to 90% of your questions is money. Things are the way they are in America so that corporations can make more money off people, because our government represents them and not us. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.